that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts.
I don't want to hear it.
Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe
That's what you said.
by MMA aficionado Antoine Pelche.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Pelche, and today we have another special guest from the Tiger Muay Thai family, Mr. Matthew Semper, pro Muay Thai fighter. How's it going, Matthew?
Chilling, man, chilling.
Chilling like a villain.
Yeah.
We got, what are we, Saturday, March 14th. It's a big UFC weekend, but today we're going to be talking all sorts of different things in UFC. Namely, some nutrition, some travel, some photography, some hip-hop, and of course, a whole bunch of Muay Thai.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So, Matthew, your story came to my attention. I've been interviewing a whole bunch of people from Tiger Muay Thai where you train and fight out of as well. I've heard that you have a pretty inspirational story of weight loss and leaving a bit of a, how would we put it, a dysfunctional lifestyle.
Yeah.
Playing, getting addicted to video games and literally playing games professionally. I share a bit of a common thread with you there that I've been making video games for the past, I made video games for 15 years and it consumed my existence as well. Oh, yeah. And I decided that I really needed a big life change. Decided to travel a whole bunch, decided to train some martial arts and some fitness. So I think we have a common thread there that we can start this discussion with. When did this addiction to games begin for you?
Oh, it was in my high school years. It's probably like 2001, 2002 when it really started kicking in. By 2003, like I'm one of those people that have a very addictive personality. Like I have to be the best at whatever it is. So it's not just being addicted to it, but
excelling at it.
Yes, I have to excel at it.
Yeah.
You know?
The OCD perfectionism.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's a gift and a curse, man.
Yeah.
I have the same thing. It's like if I get into something, I get very obsessed with it and I really want to excel at it. So I can certainly relate to you. So you get into games around 2001. Prior to that, how old were you and what were you doing at that point?
Oh man, you're talking about like, I was 2001. I was maybe 13, 14 years old.
Okay. All right, so early teens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a video game junkie.
Yeah.
I was a video game junkie, dude. I can relate.
So like those are the years where I just got into computer gaming. It wasn't, I've always had systems. I've always had system games, but I'd never had MMOs.
PC games.
Yeah, like talking about multi-person games that's like, you're not just playing with a person that's in the same room as you. You're playing with people from around the world.
Yeah, I got addicted to games at pretty much at the age of 3. I had an uncle who had a video game arcade, and I remember standing up on a stool playing Miss Pac-Man and Centipede and Robotron when I was 3 years old. And from there, I ended up getting a paper route at the age of 8.
Yeah.
I mean, most people listening to this, unless they're an old fart like me, won't even know what a paper route was. But back in the day, as the old timers say, if we needed a job when we were kids, we'd drive around delivering newspapers to people's front door. And I remember I made enough money to buy my first Nintendo Entertainment System with Super Mario Brothers, The Light Gun, and Duck Hunt. Yeah. And from there, it was just over. I'd spend horrifying amounts of hours playing games.
Same.
But I never evolved into a computer gamer like you did. So you were into arcade games and into console games before that, but then it's really the PC games that messed you up.
Yeah, it took over my life because it was like, when you're playing console games, they end. There's always an end to it, Yeah. Whereas
online games are
they're
persistent.
There's too many quests to ever finish.
Well, they're persistent. Yeah. They continue. They
update regularly.
Exactly. So they're never ending, and you can never reach the end, and you can never completely win it. You just can be the best at it at a given time.
Exactly.
Okay, so from there, it seems like athleticism was thrown out the window, and you encountered some serious weight gain.
Yeah, big time. Like, in high school, I still did sports. I was a track and field athlete. I threw shot put. And, yeah, I did a little bit of running as well, but it was mainly shot put. So I was in the gym regularly in high school. And then once high school ended for me, it was games that took over big time, you know. And when I was in high school as well, I played pro paintball. I was on a paintball team and everything. And, you know, we'd be out on the field at least 2-3 times a month, you know.
And that's a good hustle, man.
Yeah.
Paintball keeps you moving, and you're wearing all that clothing, and you sweat your ass off. I've played a few times, and it's a good workout, man.
Yeah. So we'd have, like, we go to big competitions, you know, across the East Coast of the United States. But like, as I said, like, after high school, everything just went downhill a little bit. I got a good job. I was sitting behind a computer. I was doing graphic design, you know. Okay,
so you had a job as a graphic designer coming out of high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything's like, whoa, you're making good money now. You're holding your own. But at the same time, it was my health that was taking the hit for everything. I didn't spend as much time, you know,
being active,
doing anything. I stayed behind a computer most of the time, and if I wasn't doing my work, I'd be playing, you know,
or you're surfing the web, or you're listening to music. Believe me, I've so been there.
I've like many people, you know, we kill our time behind the computer, and that's what happened to me. And it's every day it'd be a grind of me being in front of this computer and just shoveling food into my face.
Crap food. Yeah. I mean, you know, I worked at EA Sports for 8 years as an audio director there, and it's a pretty unhealthy routine that you get into too for everybody, whether it's the graphic designers, the animators, the 3D modelers, the programmers, the audio guys. You basically attack a project, you work on it like crazy, and because you're spending so many hours behind a computer, your hobbies start to be driven from the computer. So you start getting into music, and if you're into, you know, silly YouTube videos, you're checking that out, or you're downloading films and you're watching movies on Netflix. But there's just so many things that can draw you into there and that keep you in front of either your computer screen or another screen. You know, I'd spend a ton of time working on games there, and then when I wasn't doing that, I was playing games on a flat screen at home, and then I'm taking a tablet and I'm watching an episode on Netflix before going to bed, and before you know it, you've spent roughly 15 to 18 hours in front of a screen every single day, and it becomes normal. I saw people at EA balloon up, guys coming in, skinny little geeks. And, you know, there was 2,000 people, 3,000 people working there. It's a huge facility in Vancouver, Canada. And you'd end up working in one area and sort of just relate and frequent the people that are in that area. And sometimes I'd walk around to the other areas and I'd see a dude and I'd have to double check him and be like, wait a second, I know that cat. He was here 3 years ago and he's put on 150 pounds. Because people would do major overtime hours too. That's part of the grind of making games that people aren't aware of. They think it's all fun and games. It's so not. It's all grind. And people would do a ton of overtime. And when you do that, you start eating overtime food. And that's, you know, delivered Italian food, pizzas.
Chinese food, pizza.
There was dudes who were addicted
Mexican.
to, at EA, they'd give us these food coupons every night if we're doing overtime. And then you could go to the cafeteria. And some guys, they'd just go to the fridge with their tray and put 10 cans of Coke on it. And then they'd go back to their desk and they literally had mountains. They were making statues and shit out of these piles of Coke cans. And I'm like, you would see guys get so unhealthy. They'd be all white and pasty and fat and just look deathly. Crazy.
That's exactly what started to happen to me. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of South Park, Make Love, Not Warcraft.
I know. I'll check it out though. That sounds funny.
Yeah, but it was pretty much like there was some kid. They had the normal crew of kids, and they played the game. They played World of Warcraft, and they got their asses beat at one point. And that was the same thing that happened with me. And it was like, this is back when I was in beta. Like, World of Warcraft just came out of beta.
just so everybody doesn't know what beta is in terms of software development, it's a phase where your software is considered to be able to go retail, but it's a final phase where you want people to actually play the game and iron out the final bugs to make sure that it is truly a sellable, stable product.
So it's like still bug testing going on and
Exactly.
everything going on in beta. But I remember I got my ass beat by some guy from the other faction, and he was on the Horde side, and he just fucking ganked the shit out of me, and I was like, fuck this. Never again is this gonna happen to me or anyone that I know. And yeah, I just started fucking grinding. I grinded as my character, and his name's Sobek as well, and
we'll get into that.
But yeah, I had a really good guild, Genocide X, that I created with a bunch of friends. And we became...
So explain to people, what's a guild?
A guild is your clan. You know, it's your brothers.
Your entourage.
Yeah.
It's fellow geek gamers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we go into quests together. We go and do a whole bunch of missions together and everything. And we grew to be something huge. And it became like so... When you have haters in the online gaming world, you know you're doing something good.
Yeah, when your virtual self is getting hated by other virtual selves, you've succeeded in that space.
Yeah, so that's what we became, and I think I want to call myself one of the good guys, you know? But we did some grimy shit in the games, like when you take over the marketplace and try to run both sides on Horde and the Alliance side, you know.
So you went all dark side on everybody.
It wasn't dark. We just put out a little hits.
a little Metal Gear Solid back alley action. So did you eventually end up making money playing games?
Yeah, we did. We went to competitions. We had sponsors, you know.
That's fascinating, eh? It's fascinating that people nowadays can make money playing games. And I mean, that's not like, I used to make money testing games. I got into EA as a game tester, and everybody's like, "Oh, you play games for a living?" I'm like, no, I troubleshoot games for a living.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's very tedious. It's not that fun. It's a lot. It sounds a lot cooler than it actually is.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a good springboard to get into audio. But what sort of money can somebody make playing video games now?
We weren't making big bucks, and the money that we're going back into our rigs. You know what I mean? It was we'd make a couple $1,000 from going into a big competition.
Okay.
But then
when you say your rigs, you actually mean your PCs.
Yeah,
your hardware. Okay.
Like we'd be putting it right back into our PCs,
and
we wouldn't have money anymore.
But it didn't matter. That's all you needed. You
That's all
needed a
I
bag
needed.
of chips, a pizza, and a good PC, right?
You know, I had 3 screens going at one time, you know, and then my rig was just some beastly thing that glowed and
it looked like a nightclub.
Yeah, pretty much, you know.
Lights blinking.
But it was more like, you know, the Home Alone, the furnace that was in Home Alone. It was just like, it was always roaring and just
fans.
It was just like
blaring.
and there's just like fire. But like that's my tower just glowed, and yeah, it was.
So when did this reach a breaking point? When did you say, "Oh my God, I've become a slob. I'm spending my entire life in front of a computer, being a virtual character, not interacting with people in real life"? What was the breaking point there?
It was like I went through some really crazy stages at a point. You know, my mom would always tell me, "Oh, Matt, you're getting fat. You need to stop. You need to stop all this shit."
Where were you living at this time?
I was living at home. I was living in the Bronx.
Okay.
You know, and she'd tell me, "Oh, you're getting fat. You're doing this. You're doing that." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm a growing boy." You know, I'm still growing. I'm becoming a man right now.
This is no longer baby fat. It's man fat.
You know, I'm becoming a man. You know, I didn't see that I was gaining the weight.
Yeah.
I was blind to it.
It didn't matter.
You
didn't exist in the real world.
It didn't matter.
You existed in the virtual world.
And there was a christening for my cousin's christening.
Okay.
And I had seen photos of myself, and I didn't recognize myself.
Yeah, you're like, who's that?
I literally asked,
who's that?
Who's that?
Damn.
And I couldn't recognize myself. And when I seen the picture and I couldn't recognize myself, I was like, what the fuck? It's time to make a change. Like, I just remember, I'm not the person that breaks down at all, you know? I'm the one that's strong in whatever I do. You don't ever see me fucking cry. I'm like the Ron Swanson of in my family, you know? And Shauna actually hates it that I use Ron Swanson. But yeah. So but like everyone knows me as a strong guy, and I was like, it broke me. It really broke me. And
you had a bit of an emotional aha moment there where you're like, this is not good.
Yeah, this is not good. And then I quit everything. I quit my job. I gave my guild notice. Like, I didn't give my job notice that I was quitting. I gave my guild notice that I'm quitting.
That's what mattered most.
Yeah. So, I stopped everything. I sold my accounts. I sold everything.
Okay.
Sold my rigs, sold everything that I had, and was like, fuck it. We're gonna start training. You have to get healthy some way.
So training for you was what at that point?
I wasn't sure at that time.
You're just like, I gotta get my health back.
Yeah, I have to get healthy.
Did you actually have any real tangible health consequences? You know,
like I had sleep apnea. I had, bad asthma.
Okay. Yeah, I have asthma as well.
And that was pretty much it, you know.
Yeah, when you can't breathe, that's pretty much it too.
Yeah.
Kind of essential, right?
Yeah, for sure. But you know, I've had little injuries here and there, but it was nothing serious. And then I had found a gym back in New York. One of my friends that I was working with, because I did a whole bunch of other projects away from graphic design, and I was working with a few organizations for like human rights and stuff. And I remember one of my friends had told me about a gym that was near our location, and it was for Muay Thai, and that's when I got into Muay Thai.
So did you have any interest in martial arts prior to that? Like, what was Muay Thai? What did that even say to you at that moment?
Like I did and I didn't. Like when I was younger, you know, I did karate like a lot of kids did. You know what I mean?
Karate.
You know, you just take karate. I was thrown into karate as a kid. And I was always a person, I'm very competitive in things.
Sounds
you know?
like it. Yeah.
So like it was great, but I had my point where I stopped. And that was, you know, family. I was being pushed too much into training. So I stopped, and that was when I was very young. But as a teenager going into adult, me and my friends, we just watched the stuff on TV. We didn't really think too much about it.
So what were you watching?
We had seen Kickboxer.
Oh, damn.
And it was just like, fuck yeah, I want to go to Thailand.
Yep.
So then I was like, yeah, I'm going to start training. I'm going to start training Muay Thai.
Okay.
And I did that, and it became more than just what I saw in the Kickboxer, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because there so you were doing you were doing Muay Thai in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was in Manhattan. And I started to work with some really good guys. There's one really, really good coach that's there. His name is Gavin Von Vlock. And he does, like movements, power movements. And he's a very, very, smart dude.
Okay.
Like, like very knowledgeable about the subject of fitness. So he kind of like took me under his wing with things while I was at his gym, and
that's
training.
great too, because then you got basically a comprehensive approach to dealing with your weight issues, your health issues, and your training,
big time,
of athleticism and Muay Thai all in one package. Okay.
Yeah. So he became a very big part of my life. He probably doesn't even know this, like, but he became a very, very big part of my life. Like, I kind of saw him as like a dad.
Okay.
You know. And when I came out to Thailand, it was just, everything was new. This is just me coming out by myself.
What was the decision to leave Manhattan and come to Thailand? How did you come to that conclusion?
I became really good in my classes, but I realized I needed to go a step further, because I had all my friends back in New York with me, and everyone is always, I had a whole bunch of skinny friends, you know, and everyone wants to eat out. They always want to eat pizza. They want to have Chinese food on the regular whenever we go and party, you know. Yeah,
it sounds like you probably had too many distractions, too many unhealthy temptations, and a need for complete immersion into Muay Thai as a sport and as a culture.
Yeah.
Because you probably weren't getting much of the culture at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So when did you decide to come to Thailand?
Me and one of my best friends at the time, Matt, we decided we're going to come out together. He didn't make it. I came out solo. And it was just, I said I was going to stay here for a year to get fit and everything. And it became a lot longer than that. Like, I initially, like, wanted to only come out here for a year. I didn't think it was going to be anything more than that. I didn't think I would ever become a professional fighter. I wanted to do this just to get fit, you know? But the trainers had seen a lot more in me than what I had thought I actually had.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one of the important, I think, angles of sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone and getting away from your friends and family. They're not always going to be the objective people that you need them to be, because they're very partial to, they're very biased to having you near them and around them. And you grew up with them, or your friends, you meet them, and you get involved in these activities and these lifestyle choices. And if you need to break them, sometimes the only way to do that is really with distance.
Yeah.
And then to get an impartial, objective opinion on yourself, you need to subject yourself to complete strangers that are educated in the field that you're trying to excel at.
Yes.
Yeah. So you came to Tiger Muay Thai? Mm-hmm. Okay. What did the trainers here see at you, and how quickly did they feel that you had what it takes to become a professional Muay Thai fighter?
There was a testing phase, you know? Back then the gym and the street was a hell of a lot smaller. It was only about like the front ring.
Yep.
It was only the advanced ring that we had there. And the cage and everything was in that one little area. So you always had people watching you.
Okay.
And a few of the trainers had noticed me being there. And they saw that I was trying to take this seriously. So they put me to work. You know, I was on the bag, just hitting the bag for days. They wanted me to just do a certain combos, and they just leave me on the bag. They wouldn't hold pads for me. They wouldn't do anything. You know, it became more than just, you know, what you see going into a gym. Oh, people are holding pads, people are kicking pads all the time, and
them dedicating their actual work time to you.
Yeah, no, they said do this, and I did that.
Okay,
and I was there for days. I remember there was weeks where no one would hold pads for me. And
did that discourage you?
No, it didn't. It just made me work harder. And
so what was the turning point there? When did they actually say, "Hey, let's give this guy some love and attention here"?
they saw me kneeing the bag one day, and it was just the way they would knee the bag.
So like, okay, he's got the basics down here.
Yeah, and then once
or
I
even
did
more
that,
than that, probably.
Yeah, because like when I was in New York, I had a basic understanding of Muay Thai. No, it wasn't as brutal as actual Muay Thai is, but I had a good understanding of everything.
Yep.
So, but when I was forced to be on this bag and do nothing other than be on this bag, I really had to focus on what I was doing wrong.
Right.
And I had to think about everything by myself. Like, they'd show me what to do, and it's just learning to mimic it. It's the best way possible.
So yeah, you had to do a lot of, you would probably spend quite a bit of time observing too. I mean, they'd show you once, you'd try and do it a bit, then they weren't coming back and babysitting you on there. You would go back and watch them do it, go back, reproduce. Eventually they'd see that you were reproducing it correctly, and they brought you under their wing more closely. Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, I want to say about like 6-7 months into it, they were like, okay, you're going to fight. And I was like, what? I really don't want I don't
say
want to do this. You know, I'm living at the gym. I'm living in this shithole of a room. It was hot, and it was I remember it was rainy season, and it was a horrible rainy season at the time. It was always humid. There's always bugs. Everything was always in my room.
Okay.
And yeah, my trainer comes to my door and he's like, "Yep, you're gonna fight next week." And I'm like, "Okay."
Awesome.
Yeah, and they threw me in a smoker fight. And it was like one of the first smoker fights that we had at the gym. I think it was the first year.
Now, was that at the Barbecue Beatdown?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the Barbecue Beatdown are these monthly events that Tiger Muay Thai holds at the last Saturday of every month. And if you've been training there, or even if you haven't, you can just basically be anybody and sign up on a whiteboard, and they'll find you a fight. Yeah. And you can throw down for the first time if you've never done it, if you want to test yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
How'd that go for you?
I remember I fought this guy, this muscled up Australian dude. He was in like the military. His name was Frank the Tank.
Okay.
And I remember beating the living shit out of his leg. Like I was a big dude, and he was trying to throw knockout punches at me, and I was just taking them. And I just kept chopping down his leg, and then there's a point where there's something that I don't do often at all, and I threw head kicks, and I was landing these head kicks on this guy.
Was he taller than you?
Yeah, he was taller than me.
So had your weight lowered significantly by this point?
Not too much. I was probably, I want to say I was maybe 120 kilos. So I went from 100 and, it was a big drop. It was a big drop, because I went from 146 kilos. I went down to probably about 120, 130 kilos. Okay. It was in between there somewhere.
Okay, so you'd probably you'd obviously gain some athleticism and some flexibility at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So you're landing leg kicks, you're landing head kicks.
Yeah.
How'd the fight end?
Oh, it went to decision. I had my hand raised, and that was it.
So did that, what was your internal response to that? Like, I love this. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And I had a fight the next week. And I remember I wasn't freaking out, but I was going way too hard on myself. You know, you see all these guys in their beginner fights, and a lot of these guys that have smaller records, you know, they always have this hypeness about them. They're always,
it's that hunger, right? I gotta go out there and make my mark.
Yeah.
You know?
And I was about that. And when I went into the ring, I just remember he was chopping down my leg, and I didn't give a shit. I asked him to keep going. And I remember,
that's not good for a long career. That attitude.
No, I remember. I just remembered, like, I kept going, and he just kept fucking chopping down my leg. And by the end of the fight, there was like 30 or 40 leg kicks that he had thrown at my leg.
Listen, man, I've taken some. I haven't even taken a real leg kick before. Like, I've taken a practice leg kick by a professional martial artist, and it sucked. And it's just, there's no way to describe how discouraging one leg kick can be landing on your thigh. It sucks.
Yeah, it really did.
So your 40 leg kicks you've taken,
and this is only by the third round. This is by the third round
of how many?
It only went to the third round.
Okay,
I only let it go up to the third round because it's like, oh shit, my leg is starting to fucking really hurt.
The infrastructure's not holding up.
Yeah, so I just remember he's just coming in with these low kicks, and I have a good heavy hand. I have a good heavy right hand.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And that's what happened. He thought that he already won this fight, so he's just trying to run and just throw these leg kicks just to chop me down. Like whenever I get close, he's gonna hit me with this to try to get me to drop. And I just remember he stepped to my right hand, and I put him away.
Bombed on him.
Yeah, and it was just one shot. That's all I needed, and boom, he fell.
So this was your first pro fight then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, it was like, it was the most amazing feeling, and that's when I just started dancing, and it became something that I do.
Yeah, I looked at one of your highlight reels on YouTube, and it's one from 2012, and you had a little section at the end where you're doing some little shuffles and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now I've been to quite a few Muay Thai fights here, and you do get a lot of foreigners because Phuket is very, it's very tourist heavy.
Yeah.
But the traditions of Muay Thai seem quite solemn. Like there's not a lot of how would I put it? There's just not a lot of flamboyancy, and there's not a lot of flair going on from the actual fighters. They're all, very slim, dry, stoic. Here for the fight. You've got a different build. You've got a whole different aura than these dudes. Yeah. And at the end of your fight, you're putting on these hilarious little dances. Yeah. How has the response been to that? How do you feel that fits into the traditional, flair of Muay Thai?
A lot of people, like, I get a lot of crap for it online.
Okay.
Like, there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there that just hate me for dancing.
Because it's
it's
unorthodox, right?
Yeah, they think it's being disrespectful to my opponent. But now I feel like if I don't do it, then that's disrespectful to my opponents.
Hey man, hate is the new love, dude.
But yeah, at the fights, I get nothing but love from fans and from the bettors and everyone. Promoters love to see me out there. They love having me at events now.
Well, it sounds like you've developed a bit of a persona.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think in the fight game, the guys who develop the persona are the ones that get the most success. They might not necessarily be the best fighters, but the ones that have that charisma, that brings something more to the table than just fighting, those guys really stand out. I mean, if you go into the UFC and you take a guy like Chael Sonnen, I mean, he's never won a big belt, but he's gotten huge fights, and he's made a great career for himself in and outside of the octagon because of his ability to trash talk and run, promote himself and promote his fights. God bless him for it.
And same with Conor's very skilled. Conor McGregor is, but he's blown up as a name now.
Exactly. I mean, if we were just to look at his record and purely his performances in the cage, is he worthy of a high-profile title fight against, say, a Frankie Edgar, or, jumping ahead of the line of some of these guys? The answer is no, but he's got that persona, that larger-than-life.
Yeah, but the thing that's doing him real good is he's proving. Yes. Like, everything that he's saying, he goes and does it,
Yeah, he shows and proves, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He talks the talk, and then he violently walks the walk. And that's promotional gold.
Yeah, big time.
So, how many fights have you had?
60 so far.
So in a time span of how many years?
Since 2000, I think 2009 was the first time I had a pro fight.
Okay, 60 fights in 6 years.
Yeah, but it's like I've had years off. I've had taken a few years off of fighting.
Okay, so roughly, then in how many years have you had 60 fights?
I want to say probably about like 3 years.
Incredible.
Yeah.
20 fights, 20 or 25 fights. That's crazy, man. Jeez. You have my respect, dude. That just sounds incredible. Yeah. I mean, that's just a grind.
Yeah.
So 60 fights in a few years. Have these all taken place in Thailand?
Most of them have been in Thailand, but I've had a bunch in Malaysia and China. So like in the immediate area of countries,
in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Now, and for the fights in Thailand, have they all been in Phuket, or have you?
No, I've had a bunch of fights in Bangkok as well. Like I've fought on the King's birthday and Queen's birthday and like big events like that. And
so, I'm still not even fully educated on all the kind of the pecking order in Muay Thai fighting. Where do you fit on the food chain as far as professional Muay Thai fighters go in this country?
In this country, it's pretty difficult because I'm in one of the heavier weight classes. So I can't. They don't really have a lot of fights in like Lumpini and Srajadamnan for guys
Simply
my size.
Because there's a lack of fighters in your weight class.
Yeah, it's above the weight that you find normal guys.
Yeah.
But now I'm fighting at a lower weight class. I'm fighting at lower weight classes. So we'll see what my order is very shortly, like what my ranking is. But like I'm on a pretty good level as a foreigner fighter. You know, I can say I'm up in like I'm one of the top names like as a foreigner now. I'd say in Muay Thai. You know, I'd consider myself an A-class fighter. Okay. You know?
Yeah, I hear that from Marcel Gaines as well. He's like, he always says, as a foreign fighter.
Yeah.
Describe that dislocation. That there's Thai Muay Thai fighters, and they exist in this sphere in a certain capacity, and then you have foreign fighters. What is that distinction?
It's really just... I don't know. There's a lot of really, really amazing Thai fighters out there, but they don't get that chance to go. You don't see many Buakaos, you know, going around the world fucking up all these foreigners. They don't get that chance to step out into the world.
Now, is this because the Thais almost feel like they just don't stand out because they're Thai?
I couldn't really tell you. It's a very...
I mean, what I'm trying to get at is, do foreigners have an advantage here being a foreigner, or are there politics involved that hold them back or allow them to advance quicker? Like, what are the dynamics that are specific?
It depends, because like there's some aspects where you're like, all right, the foreigner fighter is on a higher scale than this Thai is. Like, you have some big shows, like, you have Thai Fight now, and you have Max Muay Thai that are out there, and they showcase top-level foreigners versus top-level Thais.
Okay.
And most of the case, the Thais are gonna beat the living crap out of a foreigner. But these foreigners still have the ability to go back and forth with that Thai. But these foreigners are the ones that making the waves around the world, whereas that Thai doesn't.
Now, is that because they simply don't have the ability to travel?
They don't have I think it's more of they don't have the management. They don't have the people backing them up. Like how us foreigners, a lot of the foreigners do.
Yeah,
like,
you turn it into a business.
Yeah, you turn it into a business, whereas
this is just their life.
Yeah, this is their life, you know, and they just don't go anywhere. And they get stuck in the life of being in the gym.
Right.
More so than being able to go out and see the world and travel.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be an advantage to being, I mean, we're going to get into this next. I mean, you seem to have a lot of different places that you've gone to and that you continue to go to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess as Westerners, we're lucky to have passports.
Yeah.
And perhaps that we work and obtain the financial means that allow us to travel.
Yeah.
Now, before we started this conversation, I was asking you where you consider home, and I was under the impression that either Phuket was home or that the Bronx, Manhattan, New York was still home. Manhattan. The Bronx, New York was home. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good for two up. Don't want to get smacked here.
Nah, you got it.
And I want to talk about New York after as well. But you were telling me that your home is considered to be Iceland. What's going on in Iceland for you?
It's just a beautiful place. You know, I went over there after I left Thailand for a bit. I had a bad breakup, and I left Thailand to go back to New York and just, you know, get away from everything for a bit. And my knee was really messed up at that time. I had like just torn my ACL and everything.
Nasty. Okay. In training or in fighting?
I was in a fight. Yeah. Taking a lot of low kicks in the fight.
You still haven't learned?
I still haven't. But
too tough for your own good, right?
Yeah. But I remember I was back home and I have a friend named Suna, and she had sent me a message just saying what's up, and I was like, get me a seminar over there. And that's what happened. She had got me a seminar. I went over there for a week.
In Iceland?
In Iceland.
So a seminar training Muay Thai.
Yep.
Very cool.
Teaching Muay Thai. And I fell in love with the place. And a month later, I moved. And that was it. And Iceland became home.
In what year was this?
Just recently. Like, it was last year. So, like, yeah.
So do you actually have a home there?
I have a room there that
Okay.
I'm staying in. Yeah.
So
With the gym.
When will you be going back to Iceland?
Within the next few months, I'll be back over there. Just wanted to bang out a few more big fights and just try to see what my level is now of, like, skill level of me being a foreign fighter, you know what I mean? Like, so,
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, I mean, you're 60 fights in. What's the end goal for you in terms of as a pro Muay Thai fighter? I mean, are you doing it now just for the money? Are you doing it for the glory? Are you doing it to obtain a certain actual status on the food chain?
yeah, it's all of the above, you know? I do it for the money. I do it for the glory. And I want to have something for my kids to remember me as. It's not just like, oh yeah, your father was a hard worker. No, your father traveled the world
And blasted fools.
Yeah. Yeah, your father traveled the world and collected names.
Yeah, Predator style.
Exactly.
You know, ripping spinal cords out and
hell yeah, and just putting them on that wall.
on that mantle.
Yeah. And
So I mean, everything always seems to come back to the competitive drive. You seem to thrive on that.
yeah,
And that just never gets old for you.
yeah. It's weird too because I don't think of myself being like, if I see somebody doing something, it doesn't mean like, oh, I want to go and beat them at it. Like, I don't have to be the best drinker there is. I don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff. But it's like, when it comes to something that I love, like it becomes to a sport or goes into a video game, when it comes to something like that, I'm going to beat you at it. I'm going to figure out a way to beat you at it.
No.
And it could be the person that has taught me the game, has shown me the game, that's shown me whatever it is to do. But I'm going to do it better than you. You know, I'm going to figure out a way how to do it better than you. Whatever it is, you're going to teach me how to play an instrument? Okay, you're going to show me this one way? I'm going to figure out a way to do it better.
Yeah, I mean, so basically when you become compelled to do something, there's no other option than to becoming the best at it.
Yeah.
That's a cool attitude.
There isn't.
I'm the same. I like to be good at the things that I'm interested in, the things that I decide to be good at. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of stuff I don't care about. You know, like I could be in a bar and somebody say, hey, let's play a game of pool. Yeah. And I don't know how to play pool well. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes I just magically play great. And other times I just totally suck.
Yeah, exactly.
But I haven't set the objective in my head to be great at pool. So if I lose at it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then if I do decide to play a pinball game against somebody in a bar, I like being good at pinball. I've played a ton of pinball, and I'm going to wreck this guy at pinball.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And it's funny how some people, the scale of that is really big. So I consider myself a competitor in the few things that I'm really interested in and want to be good at, and the other stuff I don't care. And I know my brother, for example, he just hates to lose. Yeah. He doesn't want to lose at Monopoly. Yeah. He doesn't want, anything, you know, and it sounds like you don't like to lose at anything.
Well, I don't mind losing. I don't mind losing at things, but if it's like there's certain things that I love, okay, I'm not going to lose at them.
So okay, and perhaps more on the same line as me.
Yeah.
Now you also have some interesting side gigs. I know you're a photographer.
Yes.
How did that come about? I mean, you were a graphic designer, a photographer. Those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, like back in school, I had to take up photography. Just to complete everything so I could get my diploma and everything. But I didn't like it. I didn't like film photography. I didn't like being in a dark room, having to work on photos, having to work with chemicals, having to do all this stuff. It wasn't fun to me. But when I was over here, originally, I remember someone just gave me a camera to use. And just like, oh, go take some shots of the barbecue. Go take some shots of the fight. And that's what I did.
At Tiger Muay Thai, in the training camp. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I did. And people told me I was shit. Like, some people loved all my stuff. But then I remember it was Big Mac, which is the owner of Tiger Muay Thai. He fucking hated it.
So he hated your photos?
He hated my photos. And I was like, I'm going to show you.
I'm going to get better again.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. It was him and Robin just did not like my photos. And I was like, okay, I'm going to show you guys. And, I just really took control of photography the same way I would anything else. And I'm going to be the best at it.
Yep.
And then it became more of me competing with other photographers. And we'd have like a contest, like
local guys here?
Yeah. Okay. Like, there's a few guys like Jeff Sainler and Alan Scanley and those guys. Like, now we have contests like, oh, post your best black and white shot or something like that. But things like that I just like to compete, I like that drive. It's going to push me harder.
So what outlet do you have for your photography?
I have my websites and everything, which is down right now, but like there's a whole my Instagram. There's stuff on there, and my fan page has some work as well. But
so has photography become a revenue stream for you? Like,
yeah, it has. Not so much over here anymore. I used to go do like fight photos and everything, go to events, and people would want me to take photos for them at these events. When I went back home, it became more of weddings and engagement shots and that's what events. That's
what you make money from, right?
But it's not my forte. I like just doing me. It's not so much about the money wise when it comes to photography. Yep. Like, I just do it because I love it.
Okay. And do you really enjoy doing photography for fights?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
All right, then we need to talk because my Instagram needs some love. Sounds like you might have some stock photos here that could bolster my gallery on there.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Excellent. I'd be interested in looking at that.
For sure.
So, what's next for you, Matt? Sounds like you got a lot on your plate, and at the same time, you seem like you just take things day by day.
Yeah, that's the way I'm just really go with the flow.
Okay.
When it's time to grind, of course, that's what I'm going to do, is grind. But, I'm very day by day. I have a few big fights coming up.
When can we see you fight next?
Well, I'm fighting on the 18th this month here in Phuket. Then next month on the 12th, I'll be fighting in China at Kunlun, which is a pretty big K1 organization now.
Yeah, Kunlun Fights, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the promotion, right? Kunlun Fights?
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then a week later, I'll be fighting in Kuala Lumpur against a really pretty big name Muay Thai fighter, Salatan. So that's just like back to back. I'm going for one fight.
Yeah, just to hear that, that's just fascinating. It's just so different from MMA, and how you're just like, you're already on the books for fights and you don't even know if you're going to get hurt in the ones that precede it. It's wild.
Yeah, like, I'm a cut is only going to be a cut. Like, yeah, it could do more damage if it gets opened up again, but I don't see myself getting cut in a fight right now.
No, I mean, it's great because it's an exercise in mind over matter. I mean, you've already just set up these. To you, it's just a foregone conclusion that you walk out of these fights victorious and unscathed, and you just go to the next one and whoop some ass.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I love it. I love it because there's so much there's so much visualization. Good Lord. And that's such a powerful force.
Yeah.
Do you do any reading about that stuff, like sort of personal development, and positive thinking, and the law of attraction? And
I actually do a lot of like meditation now.
Okay.
So like I have this thing called DigiPill, which is on my phone. And it's a hypnosis application.
It's very powerful stuff. I haven't done it before, but I've heard great things about hypnosis. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, there's different applications on there, for whatever you need. Since I travel so much, it's good to listen to something that's going to get me in the right mind zone, in the right headspace,
Yeah.
So, like there's ones for, whether it's a 15-minute power nap or, getting ready to go in to accomplish something. You want to overcome an obstacle, beat goals, check things off your lists. And it'll ask you questions, really getting in deep in thought,
Absolutely.
What's going to happen if you win? What's the outcome? What are you looking to, what's going to happen? Once you get this, are you really going to be happy once this does happen? What's the next goal after this happens, And it's all just gets me pumped. And that's all I really need for it.
That's cool. That's a very positive and interesting approach to it.
Yeah. So that's a really big help to me when I'm just solo.
Yeah, I did a month of Muay Thai training at Tiger last year and got pretty banged up. And I'd already, before coming out, I already had a week of Vipassana meditation scheduled in Malaysia. So I left Tiger pretty banged up, and I went and did. It was supposed to be 10 days. Do you know what Vipassana meditation is?
No.
So you should, if you're into this stuff, you should Google it. You basically go to like a remote place in the jungle. You're given what's the equivalent of a little army barracks room, basically a slab of concrete with a shitty little mattress on it, and flies and ants crawling all over the place. And you meditate for 12 hours a day. You just eat 2 vegetarian meals, no dinner, drink water, and you're not allowed or supposed to do anything else. You basically want to cut off all of the sensory input into you and just focus on your mind. I was supposed to do this for 10 straight days. After 5, I was out of there.
Quit?
Dude, it's such a, you just, I can't even begin to describe it. It's something you just have to go try and do if you're interested in it. I guess you could say I failed miserably at it, but coming out of
it's hardcore, man.
Coming out of it though, what was crazy is while I was there, all that was going through my mind, because basically all you have is your thoughts at that point. For 12 hours a day. People have no idea. So I basically meditated 60 hours in 5 days. I'd never meditated for 1 minute in my life. It was like being a couch potato and being thrown into the French Foreign Legion of the mind. But all I could think about, the primary thoughts that were spinning through my head as I tried to meditate, was how much I wanted to be back here and I wanted to be training. And the gain that I got out of it was that I was like, okay, I failed this test of the mind, but I will now do another one here and test my mind and test my body and test my willpower. And I basically trained with John Priest for 10 straight weeks, where I trained 3 times per day, 5 days a week, once on Saturdays, ate super clean, didn't drink, didn't smoke, drank water, basically lived like a monk. And I pulled that off with great results. So as much as I was disappointed with myself, I really believe that it's the first time in my life that I'd made a commitment to do something and hadn't followed through with it.
Yeah.
I think a very positive thing came out of that. So it's interesting to see too that you can go for something, you can have what can be perceived as a failure, but out of it you get a different type of growth and a different type of success.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
So the last thing I want to touch base with you is I said we wanted to go back to New York. I was watching your highlight video from 2012, and I noticed the background music behind it was MOP's Andy Up.
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know who MOP is, they're I'm not a famous, but a well-known underground hip-hop duo from New York, and they create some pretty Brownsville, New York, you know, and they're one of the very, you know, I like to think of them as, you know, they're mosh pit hip hop, you know, like there's very few groups like that that make you want to punch people in the face when you listen to it, like that generate just genuine aggression in you, but in a great way. You know, there's MOP, there's Onyx, you know, but there's, you know, MOP to me, they are the reference in that space of hip hop. You told me that you know MOP personally, and what they come over to your place for dinner. What's
like
that story?
I was really young. Same thing with Onyx, actually.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Who do you know? Who do you know from Onyx?
Damn.
Sticky Fingers, Fred Star.
Yeah.
Sticky Fingers is
Sticky
awesome.
Fingers, and but like
so Billy Dan's.
Yeah, like these dudes. Bill.
Fizzy Womack.
Yeah. Bill came to my house like as a kid, and because my sister was a rapper at the time. Now she's in Houston. She was a DJ in Houston now.
Okay.
And yeah, they'd always used to hang out at my place, and I wouldn't fucking think much of it. They're just my sister's friends.
Oh, and you're a kid, and they're just kids, right?
No, they're all like they're in their 20s by now.
Oh, okay.
They're like in teens, late teens, going into their 20s, and I'm like 8, 9 years old.
So were they making music at that time?
Yeah, they
were.
They
Had
were.
their first album come out? Was it To the Death? MOP, that was their first album.
This is probably after their first album, I want to say. Like, because they were pretty early on. It was like 90s.
MOP To the Death, that came out when I was living in France. Off the top of my head, I'd say that was probably a 1995 or a 96 release.
Definitely. This was definitely after that.
And they were coming out at the same time as Smooth the Hustler, Trigger the Gambler, DR Period.
Yeah.
I love those dudes, man.
Yeah, man.
Broken Language. That's like the best song ever.
But just like, I remember this one thing. It was just like, yeah, they came over for food and just like raiding the fridge. And like, I'm just like, what the hell? Why does my sister always have friends over the house and I never have anyone over at the house? And I'm just locking myself in my room and everything.
That's dope. I remember.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shit. I started listening to their music once I became a teenager.
So did you pick that song for your highlight reel?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was the audio director on NBA Live for EA Sports, and I also had some involvement with NBA Street 2. We did a little street version, and while I was working for EA on NBA Live, they would send me 3 times a year to Manhattan to record Marv Albert and Steve Kerr and Ernie Johnson and Kenny Smith, because I was doing all the play-by-play commentary for the basketball games.
So,
and working on the music for NBA Street 2, I was working with Just Blaze, who was at the time when Jay-Z put out one of his albums that I love, The Blueprint. The 2 main producers on that were Kanye West and Just Blaze. So that's basically the platform that those 2 guys grew to be very, very successful producers, with Just Blaze taking a big seat back since then, and Kanye obviously skyrocketing as a crazy media freak.
Yeah, big time.
But I had the opportunity to work in the studio with Just Blaze, and I consider it actually the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed as a human being. This guy's ability to go into a studio and make beats, to have music play in his head, and you basically can sit in the room and you see it flow through his hands to the MPC, to the synthesizers, and to the turntables that he uses, and it's a jaw-dropping experience. Yeah. So, having met Just, I then went to New York and was on a trip. Actually, it was the very first trip to record Marv Albert. I did a test run. And I ended up at Baseline Studios, which is a studio that Just Blaze ended up buying. And I hear MOP recording behind one of the doors. And a pretty funny story, Jay-Z walks down the hallway at this point towards me. And this is before he... I mean, he was big, he was no, actually, you know what, he was big because that's when Just Blaze was big. So no, I correct myself. He was huge. And I was like, there's no way I'm letting Jay-Z walk past me without shaking his hand. And it was pretty funny because I just kind of stood in front of him, in front of the door to the studio where he was recording the remix to You Don't Know. I don't know if you know that track. Jay-Z and he did the You Don't Know, the first version on the Blueprint. And then on the Blueprint 2, he did the remix and had MOP on it. And it's berserk, that track. Yeah, I think even RZA has said that if there's one beat that he could have ever produced, that somebody else produced, he said it was the You Don't Know remix by Just Blaze. Or maybe it was the original one. Anyway, the remix is just a bit of a twist on it. But so I stopped Jay-Z and I just said, hey, dude, I'm a fan of your work. Thanks for cranking out so much music. It's an honor to meet you. He kind of looked at me like, who's this crazy white kid? He sticks his hand out, shakes my hand, and then kind of just shakes his head and just walked into the studio, right? And Just Blaze and all the other guys behind just break out laughing. And they're like, dude, that's insane. It's like nobody just stops Jay-Z in his tracks and, orders him to shake their hand. And I'm like, I don't care, man. I bought all this guy's music. I'm a huge fan. And I wasn't leaving here without shaking his hand. And then what was crazy is that he was recording with one of my favorite groups right in the studio. I didn't actually get the opportunity to meet MOP. But I could say that I was technically in the studio when they recorded what's one of my most favorite songs.
I remember they just, like a few years back, they actually came out to Thailand.
MOP.
And they had worked with a group, a Thai rap group called Titanium.
Titanium. What the hell? It's funny. I'm a huge mid-90s New York hip hop fan, and some of these guys, man, they're having to do all sorts of crazy gigs to just keep the hustle going. And a lot of them collaborate with a ton of dudes internationally,
But a lot of the people in the United States don't hear about all these songs.
Oh, they don't. They don't.
And they've been doing this for a very long time. From back in the day, because I remember when my sister was in it, she'd be traveling to Germany. She'll travel to France. She'd be in all these other places.
People love these guys in France, dude. I mean, I lived in France in the mid-90s, and what's crazy, what people don't realize is French hip-hop was dope in the mid-90s. Yeah. They rode the same wave of sort of inspiration that was coming out in the 90s in hip-hop in the States. Yeah. If you're interested in hearing it, I could give you a playlist of unbelievable French hip-hop. Like, you're not going to understand what they're saying, but you're going to hear the flows, you're going to hear the beats, and it was on par. I'm telling you, I swear to God, it was on par with what Wu-Tang was doing, what Boot Camp Click was doing. And it's funny because there was kind of the equivalence of all those guys. Like, B.I.G. was popping in New York. There was this dude who came out, his name was Oxmo Puccino, and he was like France's B.I.G. Then Mobb Deep was exploding all over the place. Yeah. And there was a group called Lunatic in France. But they were dope. They weren't biting, but you could feel that they were inspired and riding the same wave, and that it was incredible how international that inspiration was in hip-hop. At least I can speak for the States and France, right? But I've got some banging hip-hop out of France that would resonate with anybody that digs 90s New York hip hop.
Yeah, like I had my few guys that I liked back then, like that I still listen to, I listen to Big Pun still. Big Pun is probably like one of my ultimate.
Absolutely. Just the multi-syllable flow from hell.
Yeah, big time.
Dead in the middle of little did they know they were dealing with middlemen that didn't know diddly. Yeah. See that fast 10 times. That's like the illest rhyme ever.
Yeah, he was a lyricist. Yeah. He was amazing. And he was taken away because of his weight.
Dude, I remember seeing a picture of Big Pun. I mean, you just have to go back to the What You Gonna Do video. Yeah. And he's sitting on that bench while Terror Squad's playing basketball, and he looks like he's 700 pounds. Yeah. I mean, he looks like a monstrous triangle of flesh.
I remember, I'm Not a Player. Yep. And you see them on their motorbikes at the end of the video. They weren't riding motorcycles, they were riding motorbikes, little mopeds, like 125cc mopeds. Yeah. And they're just huge on these things. Him and Fat Joe, Pun and Fat Joe were on these things. And you're like, holy shit, you're fucking, you're big. you're a big boy.
You got to start taking a potato peeler to that flesh cube.
Yeah.
And just start lopping it off.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, we were from the same neighborhoods, you know. We had like gone to the same barber. His barbershop was like right down the street from my school, so we were always hanging out in front of the place and see Cuban Link and Triple C.
Love Cuban Link.
And it's like
Prospect was ill.
Yeah.
I liked all those lesser known Terror Squad dudes.
Yeah.
They Armageddon.
Yeah,
Armageddon was sick. Triple Sace was sick. Prospect was sick. Cuban Link though, he should have blown up, man.
Yeah.
And he never got the forum and opportunity to do it correctly.
Well, they had that thing going with like Fat Joe. Like Fat Joe just he had problems. And it was the same thing with like Remy Martin, you know. Yep. And she didn't get the spotlight until much later on, you know.
If really ever. I mean, Remy Ma is not.
And so now she's in jail again, I think.
I think she's out. She's out. And she's actually, I think she's married to Papoose. I don't know. Do you know Papoose?
Oh, yeah?
He's another.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're married, dude. Papoose is an ill rapper too, man. But Papoose never got his.
He had his few little
series of mixtapes, dude. I have a best of Papoose playlist in my iTunes that I've curated over the years. He's got some bangers.
Yeah,
but he's also got a bit of a style. He's good when he remains calm. I think when he starts getting too hyper, then his voice goes into a range that kind of can irritate some people and limit his fan base.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn. Okay, so Big Pun. Who else do you like?
From the old school, like it would have to be like Black Star. Like I like Common, I like Talib Kweli, you know, I like those dudes.
You know what? I like Common and I like Mos Def, but Talib Kweli can't handle him.
Really?
Just can't handle his voice, man. It just irritates me. I know he's a great writer, and I know he's got a good delivery, but I physically just doesn't resonate with me. It actually gets on my nerves, and it's something you can't control. You know, I think a lot of people say the same thing about Papoose.
For sure. But like I don't like. I've lost a lot of my heart for a lot of music, a lot of what's called hip hop nowadays. The only ones that really keep me there are J. Cole.
You said Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino is huge for me, and Shauna doesn't like this. Like, she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna play?" Like, if there's any music playing, it's normally Childish Gambino for me. She could like guess it right off the bat what song it's gonna be playing.
You know, I get a lot of people that say that hip hop is dead. That I could, if you're interested in it, I can give people playlists of stuff that's coming out every week. There's some banging stuff. It's just not marketed, dude.
I don't think it's dying. I don't think it's dying. I think it's just transforming into a new beast of some kind, you know?
Have you heard of Apollo Brown?
Apollo Brown, no.
He's a producer out of Detroit.
Yeah.
And he basically sounds like a 2015 version of, to my ears, what would have happened if you would have taken vintage RZA and vintage Just Blaze. Like if we would have taken the soul sample chopping, drum programming of RZA, and then basically made RZA sound modern. I think RZA's just completely fallen off. I think the latest Wu-Tang album is a disgrace to their legacy. I don't know if you listen to it, A Better Tomorrow. It's an abomination. It's unlistenable. Terrible. Let's not go there.
Sorry, Killer B fans.
I'm almost like, RZA, what you should do is get the Wu in the studio. Get Apollo Brown behind the boards and tell him to make the last great Wu-Tang album with you executive producing it. Sort of like what he did with Ghostface, you know, with the Supreme Clientele album. He picked and chose a bunch of beats from other dudes. He probably produced about a third of the beats on that album, and he made a bona fide classic by piecing together other people's stuff. You know, he went and saw Juju from the Beatnuts and said, "Give me your best RZA beat." You know, and then Juju made a beat that I love the Beatnuts too. By the way, I don't know if you like them, but it's next to MOP or along with MOP, they're probably my favorite hip hop duo. Good ignorant shit, but you know they do it right? I'll send a bunch of Apollo Brown music your way. I'd be curious to know, with your background in music and what you currently listen to, where that fits into the spectrum of what you like.
Like, my spectrum's huge now, though. I've gone more away from a lot of hip hop.
Do you know Arab music? Have
What do you mean?
There's a producer. His name
Oh,
is
yeah,
Arab
yeah.
Music. He works a lot with Dipset.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm a huge Dipset fan, vintage Dipset fan. Love Cameron.
Man, yeah, Dipset was huge. Like back when I was in high school, man, because I went to school in Manhattan. I went to school for graphic design. And I remember they're just like the studio, I think it was Universal, was like right by our school.
Okay.
And so there'd always be like Dipset and you'd have all these kids just like fucking surrounding the studio, just trying to meet all those guys, man.
Yeah, I thought that they took over, and when they came out and they had the heat makers producing their beats, and they were really doing a lot of the chipmunk soul, you know, a lot of the sped up soul samples.
Yeah.
And again, some people didn't like that sound. I personally love it. I just love any hip hop that's made from 70s soul records and done right like that, you know. And RZA pioneered that along with a few other guys. But I when I was recording NBA Live audio for it, Marv Albert, I would constantly bump into Duke the God, who is basically the A&R for Dipset. Yeah. And so I'd see him rocking a Dipset chain and a big Dipset logo on his shirt, and I'm like, okay, I'm listening to these guys, I got to meet this dude. So I just bumped him and said, hey, you know, who are you and what do you do? And he told me, and then he was like, well, who are you and what are you doing at Sony Studios in Manhattan? I'm like, I'm the audio director on NBA Live, so I'm just recording Marv Albert. And it was funny because his jaw just dropped, and he's like, dude, there's 3 things that me and my goons here do. We make hip hop.
Yeah.
We smoke weed. And we play NBA Live.
Yeah.
And he's like, from here on out, you're VIP with us. And then it was just, I was like, okay, what does that mean? It's like, well, it means that, you know, you're rolling with us. We're going to like, you know, a Kanye West video shoot or a Joel Santana concert, or you're hanging out at my place in Harlem. And I'm going to play you, you know, 300 exclusive tracks that you'd never heard before. Yeah. So it was really cool because I organically built what was cool was it was a really cool, like, it was like a friendship and a working relationship with these guys. I'm a fan of it. It's awesome when you can connect with people professionally and then become friends with them. And, you know, he just loved the gig. He loved what I did and I loved what he did. And it was on and popping from there. Sure. So back to Arab music. If your musical tastes have expanded into other genres and you really still appreciate hip hop, you got to check out Arab Music. He's an absolute monster on the MPC, which if anybody doesn't know, it's a classic drum machine. It looks like just a big box, and it's got a bunch of these plastic drum pads on the front. And this guy uses the MPC in ways that are absolutely mind-boggling. When we're done this podcast, I'm going to show you just a quick nitty-gritty example. The guy is unfriggin' believable. And he blends like EDM with hip-hop in a way that's just mind-boggling. And you listen to this stuff, and it just, if this doesn't give you goosebumps, dude, then you must be paralyzed from the neck down, because it's unbelievable. This guy is an extraterrestrial. I'm a huge Arab music fan, and I love how he's able to take the elements from EDM, which I'm not a fan of, but he makes it hip hop. And again, just like we sort of said with MOP, he makes this music where you're like, it makes you want to do drive-bys on people or something. I don't know why, but it's just like, it just gets you amped in a way that very few musics resonate with me like that. You know? Incredible stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I think the only person that has like a classic flow that's in the game right now is probably Action Bronson.
Dude, I love Action Bronson.
Yeah, he has like Ghostface, like
he's like Ghostface and Cameron.
Yeah, and
it's funny because people diss him for saying, "Hey, you sound like Ghostface." He's like, I don't know why people say I sound like Ghostface, because he's like, my real inspiration is Cameron, but I think he gets the humor from Cameron, but his flow is more Ghostface. And I didn't like Action when he first came out, but he's really become. That's so funny you brought that up. I'm stoked his album Mr. Wonderful, it's coming out real soon.
Like he's a character. He's a character. He's more than he's more than just like a rapper. Like there's a bunch of good rappers out there, but you're never gonna hit the top because you don't make yourself stand out.
Well, and that's the funny thing about hip hop and music in general is you can no longer just be a musician. Yeah, these guys, they understand, like, we get the music for free, guys. You can steal the music. You can't. So you can't sell the music. The music is now the business card for your persona as an interesting human being who needs outlets for his creativity. And I totally agree with you that Action Bronson, I think he's got like cooking shows. And, he's a food fiend.
Yeah,
and he
like you
makes
see him
funny
in restaurants and everything, like checking out Italian food. Like,
but you know what? He's smart. He's obviously studying how social media is working, and he's obviously an interesting, unique guy.
Yeah,
and I think the Ghostface comparisons can completely disappear. He's got an ill flow, ill topics. He did a full mixtape, street album, whatever you want to call those things. I just consider them albums with Alchemist, who's also one of my favorite. Something chandeliers in the title. He's always got wonky titles. If you like him, one of the dudes affiliated with him, Mayhem Loren. You know Mayhem? He's got an album called Silk Pyramids out, entirely produced by Buck Wild of Digging in the Crates. I'll pass you that too.
Word.
Banging. Or support and go download. I don't know how you, if you steal music or if you buy it.
Well, it depends.
It depends, right?
It depends. Because it depends. Like if I really love your music, I'm gonna buy your album.
I'm the same.
But if it's just like, oh, I'll play it every now and then, of course I'm gonna go and get a torrent for it.
Well, listen, dude, I'm sure we could chop it up about all of this stuff for hours, man. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. This has been it's great that the topics haven't just revolved around martial arts. It's great to chop it up and mix up the conversation. Matthew, how can people follow you on social media?
Sobek Semper is everywhere. So it's at Sobek Semper on Facebook. It's at Sobek Semper on Twitter. It's at Sobek Semper on Instagram.
Okay, and that's SOBK SEMPER?
SOBEK.
Yep.
SEMPER.
What does Sobek mean?
Sobek was a name that had grown on me. Sobek was, I remember one of my trainers had seen me as a crocodile in his dream.
What the fuck?
And he kept seeing me in his dream as a crocodile.
Okay.
And so it just kept growing. They kept calling me like Crocodile, and then became King of the Crocodiles, Crocodile God, and like the Crocodile God in Egyptian is Sobek.
Interesting.
So, and it just fit together. But now they have a new name for me in Thailand, which is Jadake Dam, which is the black crocodile, and that pretty much fits.
What's your heritage?
I'm Antiguan and Puerto Rican.
Antiguan and Puerto Rican. Okay, so you must like some of those. Oh man, another producer, Puerto Rican, Aguilar. Do you know Aguilar? Yeah. I've worked extensively with that. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll have to just take that one. I could go on for hours. Yeah, and then, it's funny because there's a UFC fighter, Ronaldo Souza. He's Brazilian, and his nickname is Jacare. And I believe that means alligator in Brazilian, or in
it means
Portuguese.
Crocodiles.
In Portuguese.
Yeah, in Portuguese.
Lots to talk about, man.
Jacare and Jacare.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a bit of a... it kind of sounds the same.
Yeah.
All right, man. This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Pelletier, with professional Muay Thai fighter Matthew Semper, fighting out of Tiger Muay Thai. It's been a slice, brother. Hope to have you again on the show soon.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace. That's how we always sign out.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
On my face, behind my back, they talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA. Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.